Welcome back to the Sideline Sorcerers. Now, I don't think that March Madness really went the way that anyone was expecting it to go.
As per usual.
A lot of upsets going on here. Sadly, Houston got knocked out. Duke got knocked out. There's an 11 seed in the Final Four. Just a lot of chaos going on.
Yeah, it's good to see. I think it was a really good set of games for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. Some really close ones. Purdue, Tennessee,
And some
Alabama,
blowouts.
North Carolina, Alabama, Clemson. Yeah. I mean, those are expected, but I really am just hanging my hat on the good games that we got. And a lot of surprises for sure. I think it's a good kind of array of teams in the Final Four that encapsulates most of the country. No one really on the West Coast or the Northwest gives a crap anymore, but a lot of the people who really care about sports, honestly, are kind of on this side of the country
Right.
anyway. So, yeah, I think it's really good for the sport. I'm very excited to watch the remaining games. It went by so fast, and the thing we only have, 3 more games, right? Yeah, 3 more games.
Yes, sir.
In the entirety of this year's March Madness is a little saddening.
I know. And then it's draft season.
Indeed it is, yeah. So at least there's something to occupy us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course there's the UFL, which just had their inaugural weekend this past weekend, I believe
Oh, really?
it was. Yeah,
Did
March
you watch
30th.
any of the games?
I did not, but I got some notifications about some crazy stuff going on, like some punt TD, kick TD, I don't know, something crazy. I need to look at, but because they don't put the scores on CBS Sports, which is like the best app for checking scores of anything,
Yeah.
it's very hard for me to get invested in. Like, I don't want to get another app. I don't want to have to Google that stuff.
Right.
So that was a little disappointing to me because they have like everything. They have like your Argentinian soccer. They have, women's college basketball, all that
Right.
stuff. So that's a little upsetting. So maybe I won't be able to get into it, but I would like to. Like, I really enjoyed watching the XFL in 2020 before COVID shut that down. But anyways, guys, we're going to get into this week's episode. This is our 30th podcast, actually. So, yippee.
Wow, that's a little
I know.
celebratory milestone.
It is a little celebratory. And yeah, we're going to start with some NFL news.
Not a whole lot of excitement this week, though.
It's kind of fiddling down. I'm sure there's going to be like one more big trade, and then we'll have draft stuff.
Yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson signs 2 years with Pittsburgh. This dude, he's been moving around like crazy the last like 6 years.
An
I can't
absolute
believe he has-
vagabond, bro.
Yeah, for real. He's a nomad.
Yeah.
I just can't believe he has still gas left in the tank. Honestly, this guy's getting up there in years, and he's played a lot. So
You think he's going to play a little kick returner role here, or more of
for
a
sure.
running back backup?
he should be a kick return guy for sure. I don't
Yeah.
think they really need him at the running back position when
Yeah.
they have Najee and Jalen Warren.
Agreed.
So Josh Reynolds signs 2 years with Denver to replace Jerry Jeudy. I think it's a great sign. Josh Reynolds, in my opinion, is better than Jerry Jeudy. Hopefully he gets more of a chance to shine here in Denver because he really came up in some big moments in Detroit. I think he had some drops, or he had a drop on 4th down in the NFC Championship game. But other than that, he's a really good player, and I really like him. I had him on one of my fantasy teams, and he always kind of came through for me.
You really think he's better than Jerry Jeudy?
I do. I really strongly do.
I don't know about
If he got
that
all the
one.
opportunities that Jerry Jeudy got over the last few years, he would have had way more stats.
I feel like Jerry Jeudy was like always like a low end flex player, but Josh Reynolds wasn't normally like startable unless you're in a really deep league. Like in maybe like our league that had like 16 or 20
Well,
people.
yes,
then
that's
he's got
where
some
I started
starter
him.
value.
I will admit, like that is where I started him. But Jerry Jeudy is not somebody you really want to be starting either. You start him because he was like a 1st-round pick.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be really good. He's technically like wide receiver 1 or 2 on Denver, but he never ever lived up to that. Whereas Josh Reynolds was like wide receiver 4, 3, and yet he outperformed all those expectations.
He did have
So,
some like really solid games. So maybe
Yeah.
just like if he gets more
just watch
action,
this dude. I believe in him. I
Okay.
really do.
That's fair.
Especially with a new rookie quarterback coming in, I think he will, have the chance to shine. Like some newer, more humbler guys
Yeah.
to mesh together and hopefully have some success. Jadaveon Clowney signs 2 years with Carolina. Carolina kind of building up, adding some pieces to their team here. I like it. But this guy's also getting a little old. He's getting a little up there in years, so
Yeah,
we'll see how
I'm
this
sure
pans out.
he can add just a little bit to their defense
Yeah.
for the time being.
Yeah, losing Brian Burns, hopefully Jadaveon Clowney
Yeah.
can kind of fill in and make the defense at least as good as it was. Probably not, but we will see. Olamide Zaccheaus. I always just knew him as Zaccheaus. Signed 1 year with Washington. I like the signing. Zaccheaus actually is kind of underrated, like Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, he's just a sneaky kind of guy.
I mean, you look up and he's catching like a 39-yard touchdown. Yeah, I remember some games where this dude would piss me off because the touchdown was not going to Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert rather. Like, I'm like, oh yes. I mean, there was that 1 year when I went undefeated in my fantasy football league.
Yep.
And I lost in the first round of playoffs because I had like the entire Eagles offense. I had Jalen Hurts, I had A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, I believe.
But not Zaccheaus.
Yeah, so I look up, I see that the Eagles got a touchdown. I'm like, well, surely I should have gotten points from that.
Yeah.
No, it was freaking Olamide Zaccheaus. I mean, who would have ever expected that?
I remember watching like a little TikTok or something, and it was some guy who bet on like the first touchdown score of the game. And I don't remember like who he bet on. Like maybe it was A.J. Brown or something like that. And Zaccheaus is out there catching it, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? Who is this guy?
Yeah,
like, who is Zaccheaus, bro? Robbing me of my coin."
I know.
And,
Jalen Reagor did some of that too. He was on, or maybe it was Arcega Whiteside. I think the Eagles have had some weird wide receivers, but they've done some sneaky things. Speaking of Eagles, Carson Wentz, ex-Eagle, was signed to Kansas City to be their primary backup, I would assume here, because, man, who was their previous backup? Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert, I think, might have retired. He's an old guy. Yeah, this is a good signing. Carson Wentz is probably borderline startable. I think he really got shafted.
Yeah.
He had a really good season in Indianapolis.
Didn't he win a Super Bowl as well?
Technically. I mean, he was going to win MVP until he got hurt. Nick Foles comes in, wins the Super Bowl for the Eagles.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Ever since then, he's been on the downcline. But as soon as he went to the Colts, I mean, he had a really good season. It was like 28 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, something like that. Maybe it wasn't as many touchdowns, but really good season. They did miss the playoffs that year because he wasn't able to beat the Jaguars in the final week of the regular season in Jacksonville. That was Trevor Lawrence's first year, but his last game, I remember distinctly. So the Colts ship him off to Washington. He opens his first game with the Commanders. 4 touchdown passes, I think 2 interceptions. I think they did win. It was against the Lions, maybe it was, but he only started a few games there before he was benched for Tyler Heineke. And then, of course, Taylor Heineke. Then he goes to the Rams, has a comeback win against the 49ers in their season closer. And so he's got some gas up in the tank. And I think, I was talking to somebody the other day, like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, these guys who have gone on such crazy strides without getting injured, like they are just bound to get injured. The law of averages will kick in. I hate to say it, especially Josh Allen, but the way he plays, run people over,
so liable to get hurt.
He's going to get injured one of these days. I mean, if Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts are out here getting injured many times, these guys are going to get hurt. But maybe they're going to be those guys like Tom Brady who just know how to take care of their bodies and don't get hurt. But
yeah, I mean, this would be a great signing for the Chiefs, though, if something like that does finally happen to Mahomes.
They can win a few games with him.
Oh, dude, for sure. Yeah, because like you said, he is definitely borderline startable on some teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's very productive, in the way he can run around and extend the play.
Right.
All right, let's get on to our Sweet 16 and Elite 8 recap. We're just going to go game by game, quadrant by quadrant, recapping the games, giving some thoughts on these. As soon as I put my bet down for UConn, San Diego State covering that spread, I knew I made a mistake. UConn is just so dominant. San Diego State may have wanted that revenge more than anything in the world, but they are just physically incapable, scientifically incapable of doing it because of how good UConn is. And sure enough, they won by 30. That's just absolutely insane to me. But, I mean, UConn just definitely seems like they're the pick to win the Natty. And I'm kicking myself for not taking them because I originally, going into all this March Madness, I was going to take them. But I just came to the stupid belief, I guess, that if you won last year, you really statistically are not going to win again back-to-back. So I had Houston winning. Now, maybe they don't win, but it sure looks like they are going to win. If they don't win, I'm going to keep hanging my hat on that, though. Like, you can't win back-to-back. I mean, Florida did a while ago, but It's just so tough to win all these games in a row.
Yeah, I mean they've seriously been blowing out like every team that they've faced. I mean, it hasn't even been a close game that
their average win margin is like 23 points.
Right. Yeah, that's just absurd. But yeah, I mean, I was with you the whole time because I didn't ever think that UConn could win two straight. I mean, it's
tough.
It's almost unheard of, and I guess
they're in this tough quadrant here. They didn't have to face Auburn, which I think they got very lucky. They didn't have to face Auburn, but still, though, San Diego State, Illinois, or Iowa State, those would have been tough. Northwestern even was a solid team, but obviously didn't even come close to being UConn.
Yeah, it's almost just like people didn't think the Chiefs were going to go back to back, and then they did. And so UConn might end up doing the same here. They certainly do seem like they'd be the favorite to win it at this point.
Yeah, I think they're probably like minus 400 to win it all at this point. I would not be surprised if you get absolutely no value on that. Moving on to the Illinois-Iowa State game. Really happy about how this one went because I called all the way Illinois being Ohio or Iowa State rather. And they were kind of in control of this whole game. It was a close one, but I feel like Illinois always had like a 2 to 3 point lead. And of course, they win by 3 there. So good stuff. Happy to see Illinois pull this off. Being from here, I'm not a big fan of the university, but I'm obviously going to root for them over Iowa State. And I like their team. They ended up getting dominated by UConn, so we'll just kind of transition over to that game. This is one of those games a lot of people at Illinois, maybe Illinois covering, but again, it was close, 23-23. Then UConn goes on a 30-0 run. They score 30 unanswered points. Absolutely unheard of. Illinois, you should be embarrassed of yourself. You literally just got your pants pulled down on you in front of the entire auditorium.
Yeah, I mean, how did they let that happen, bro? They're literally hanging with UConn, the best team in the league, and then they just fall asleep on the bench?
It seems like they forgot what side, like what basket they're supposed to put the ball into, and so it was just like 10 people just trying to put the ball into like the same basket. I mean, that literally seems what was going. I mean, just craziness. I mean, UConn's, it's not like they have like a big star like Purdue does with Zach Edey.
Right.
They just have like really good players like that mesh together and they play really well. So moving on to the bottom quadrant here, the West, you had North Carolina, Alabama. And again, I don't know why I do this to myself. I should have taken Alabama to cover the spread because it would have protected against my emotions if they did end up winning. Because of course, if you guys don't already know, I hate Alabama. Want them to lose in everything. I can't even think of another team that I would root for them. I can't think of another team that Alabama could play in which I would root for Alabama. Like, I just cannot think of it. I think in every possible situation, I am going to root against Alabama.
Like, who would you say is Notre Dame's largest rival? Like, did you say USC?
I mean, right now it would probably be like USC.
So if it was USC and Alabama?
Oh, my God, yeah. USC all the way. Michigan all the way. Ohio State all the way. Please. God, I hope it's Purdue, Alabama. I hope Purdue destroys them. I hope UConn destroys them. God.
You really have a little salty like taste in your mouth there.
Pebble in my shoe that I can't get rid of. So, yeah, I mean, this was a good game. North Carolina was lucky, though, that it was this close because their best player did not really shoot that well, and yet it was still within 2 there at the end. Alabama, they've started playing a lot better defense as of late, which is what's carried them through. They also got a good draw, though, I thought, facing Clemson here. I really didn't think Clemson was due for a big run. They did beat Arizona, which was surprising to me. Arizona just had a terrible day shooting. What was it? Like 17% shooting.
Something like that. And they also turned the ball over a bunch. I mean, in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, I think they said the first 5 minutes they had 4 turnovers, which is just brutal.
The fact that it was as close as it was, 77-72, is miraculous.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, Clemson just took advantage of Arizona playing like poo. Disappointing. I would have liked to see Arizona win it all. It probably would be my favorite team left. But yeah, Clemson took care of business. A little bit of a Cinderella for them, a team that I didn't think finished the regular season well, would lose in the first round, ended up making it to the Elite Eight, but lost to Alabama in a pretty good game, I would say. But I really did not think Clemson stood much of a chance against Alabama. And so, yes, Alabama ends up winning that game 89-82. We can move up to the South Quadrant here. Of course, you had Houston and Duke. Really ugly, low-scoring game. I remember I said in the podcast last week, I fell in love with that guy, Shed. I don't know his first name. The player on Houston, really good player. Probably, I think he was like Big 12 Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Something Shed. You know what? We're going to look it up here real quick because it's bothering me. I hate just calling him Shed. People think that I'm like just talking about like a barn. Jamal Shed. Dude was a beast when he played Texas A&M. And he gets injured within like the first few minutes of this game against Duke. And the fact they only lost by 3 is actually pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's like their best player, man.
Yeah,
and
he
so,
is.
you know, if that he doesn't go down, I feel like they're liable to win the game. Yeah.
Oh, 100% they win this game. The fact that it was as close as it was without him is good. I mean,
and so, like you said, it was a really ugly, low-scoring game. 54-51 is ridiculous. And even the Vegas line for this game was set at 134 at the start of the game. And I thought, well, that seems really low. And yet it soars under that by a 29.
Houston plays good defense, but like this was one of those where it's like, this feels like in the NFL, like if you had a backup quarterback come in for like a pretty solid team, play like the worst team in the league. You know what? Actually, this is kind of like the Bears-Panthers game that was like 10-13, or like Josh Dobbs and the Bears. That game, remember that game? That was 12-11. The Vikings and the Bears, 12-11. The Bears won that game. That's what this was. Just ugly, low scoring. Both teams kind of playing bad. One of them is because of an injury. The other one just that's kind of how they play.
Right.
I mean, I know Duke's not like as bad as the Vikings were or whatever this past year, but what I'm trying to say is, I mean, it's crazy that some games end literally in twice the amount that this score was. I mean, I have seen
absurd.
like 102 to 108 type thing. So, wild, but I think Duke got lucky. Then you have NC State Marquette. Marquette just really kind of came out flat in this game.
I don't think they had a single lead for the entire game.
It was kind of like the Illinois-Iowa State game where, I mean, it was relatively close at points, but I don't think they ever really, like you said, got a lead, which is just crazy for such a, good dominant team against a team that lost their last 4 regular season games and then went 9-0. Have gone 9-0 in the ACC and NCAA tournaments. Absolutely insane for the Wolfpack there. They're in the Final Four for men and women, so you got to be feeling pretty good if you're, remember Zeke? He's NC State now.
Really?
Yeah, so.
No way. I did not know that.
Center for Notre Dame, guys, who was in my dorm, Zeke Cordarrelle. He transferred from Notre Dame to do his final year of eligibility at NC State, so he's got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
Yeah, but
the Cinderella story will probably come to an end soon, though.
I think it will, but honestly, though, who knows? If anyone, I think they have a good chance of beating Purdue. I mean, the only team that I think they would really struggle against would be UConn. But
I mean, they got those
any team would.
Those couple guys named DJ on their team who are both like the Wombo combo together. They got the big boy DJ who is just like a tank, and he just he gets rebounds and then he just pops people out of the way and scores buckets, man.
It's crazy. I'm just frambombed about NC State. I mean, they were like a free throw made against them away from not even being in the tournament. Like if they lost to Virginia in the ACC tournament, they wouldn't even be here right now. So it's just props to them. And I was telling somebody before, so I think the Houston Duke game was before the NC State Marquette game. But either way, I was telling somebody, I was like, bro, like Duke's got to watch out. If they have to face NC State in the Elite Eight, they could be in trouble because they're in the same conference, and you never want to play someone in the same conference in something like this because you know each other so well. You've played each other multiple times during the regular season, and although you might have lost to them a couple times, I think NC State actually beat Duke in the ACC tournament, but Duke beat them once or twice during the regular season. You just don't want to face somebody you're so familiar with in the playoffs like this. And sure enough, that was the matchup that ended up happening. And sure enough, NC State came out, took care of Duke. They scored well over double the amount of points they did in the first half in this game against Duke. They scored, I think, 21 in the first half, 55 in the second half.
That's crazy.
I know. Some of these, I mean, the scoring in college basketball is so bipolar, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Duke was similar. I mean, they outscored NC State substantially in the first half, but then got absolutely just slapped around in the second half. Yeah, they were struggling. They looked like an average team. They looked like Notre Dame in the second half.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Yeah. But good for NC State, though.
Yeah.
Glad to see an 11 seed in it. I can't remember like the last time such a low seed was in it, other than maybe Loyola a couple years back. I mean, it's rare seeing like a team like this low seeded making the Final Four.
Yeah, it's good for the sport. I'm happy that it went down that way instead of just being 1s and 2s and that 4 in there. But moving along, we have Purdue and Gonzaga here. Purdue does end up taking this one pretty easily. It was a decent game for most of it, but Purdue was able to take care of Gonzaga. Kind of went down how I thought it would. This was my best region in terms of my bracket. I think I only got like one game wrong out of the entire thing. On like most of my brackets, I picked Colorado State or whatever it was over Texas. I should have taken Texas, but everything else I pretty much got right in this bracket, down to, except for Tennessee being Purdue. I didn't think Purdue would be able to make that deep of a run, but they've really proven a lot of people wrong. And then Creighton and Tennessee, another good game that Tennessee was able to pull out there in the end. And then a lot of people talking about all the foul trouble Tennessee got into against Purdue and how it's unfair, blah, blah, blah. That's just how it goes. Zaccheaus draws so many fouls with his size that's just part of the game. It's tough to play against somebody so big, and so stop complaining about it. Y'all lost. Just because Purdue lost to a 16 seed last year doesn't mean that, they're going to, they're a worse team this year. I mean, everyone's using that like, oh yeah, like Purdue can't do it in the postseason, blah, blah, blah. But
they came back hungry though.
Yeah, I think that was the best thing for them last year, is losing to the 16 seed. I mean, whatever happens next, this is a successful season for Purdue.
Yeah,
it's a great bounce back, great end of the career there for Zach Edey.
It truly feels like that loss last year galvanized them to success this year. Yeah,
I really think that's a factor for a lot of teams. Comes at certain different parts. Maybe you lost in the ACC tournament like North Carolina did. Maybe you, like Arizona, had a really bad end to their regular season ACC or Pac-12 tournament, but they end up doing quite well in the NCAA tournament. You can say the same thing about Alabama. Did not have the best run in the SEC tournament, but here they are in the Final Four. Clemson as well. Some of these things just galvanize you to the next level.
Yeah.
The only team here that won their, well, I guess NC State and UConn, they've only teams that won their conference tournaments. So I thought that's kind of interesting. But yeah, now we have Purdue, NC State, UConn, Alabama in our Final Four. Those games have relatively large spreads for being the Final Four in the country. I think UConn, Alabama is like 9.5. NC State, Purdue's like 6.5. I would probably lean to take the favorites in both of those, and again, I don't know why I'm going to do this. I'm just going to take UConn on the spread. I really should take Alabama because of emotional hedging, but
So yeah, UConn is 11.5 point favorites here, and
wow, it's gone up.
Purdue 9.5 point favorites.
Oh wow, I thought both were a little lower, but
yeah, but I really like the UConn pick, dude. Like you mentioned earlier, their average win margin is 23 points. They have blown out every single team they've faced for a long time now.
I think they've covered in all the games in the tournament so far.
They had to have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Northwestern was like the closest game at 16 points. I think they even covered that. Like I think that was like a 13-11 point spread or whatever. So maybe this is one game that they don't cover. But then again, Alabama's covered all the spreads, I believe, in their NCAA tournament games here. So honestly, have every single team covered every single spread? Maybe. I think actually, yeah, they had to have. Maybe Oakland covered against NC State, but actually I'm kind of thinking that all four of these teams have covered every spread in every game in the tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. I would think that Purdue did. NC State, I would assume they definitely did, since they were underdogs in almost every game.
But that Oakland game, though, that's the one that's a little questionable to me. UConn and Purdue definitely did. My only question would be if Alabama covered against Clemson and NC State's covered against Oakland. But we'll take a gander here real quick for you guys.
When do you think this game was? Was this like March 21st, do you think?
Yeah. I'll pull it up here real quick. So
Yes.
Alabama, Clemson. Alabama was 3.5-point favorites. They won by 7. So there you have that.
Oh, I found it. You were right. So it was a 6.5-point spread, and NC State won by 6.
Wow.
So Oakland did cover.
I knew there was one
Yeah.
sneaky one in there. So
You called it, man.
yeah, I think everything else though was a cover. So yeah, these teams have just been not only great.
Cover machines.
Yeah, I mean they win, but they also cover. Good teams win, great teams cover. That's what they say.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, what do you think? I think we have the same predictions here.
We do, yeah. I'm also going to rip UConn here. I didn't love them going in, at the start of my bracket making, just because I didn't think they were going to win 2 straight. But, watching them play,
It's hard. It's impossible not to take.
Yeah,
them at this point.
they're pounding everyone. You got to be taking UConn over Alabama here. I don't think many people will be picking Alabama on the money line upset here.
I mean, there's value. I think there might be value to it. 11.5 is kind of a lot.
Yeah, but they're still plus 500 money line, which is just crazy like that.
That's plus 500.
I'm saying that's really large. There's definitely value
there's
there.
a lot of value there.
But
for
I just
sure.
don't
This is
think
the Final Four.
Yeah, UConn has just looked that good.
They really have.
They're minus 710 for this game.
I hope UConn wins. I'm just so tired of teams from the South dominating and all this stuff. And for Connecticut to beat the brakes off Alabama, that would just warm my heart. Because UConn is so bad in football. It's pathetic. They lost 56-7 against Tennessee in football this past year.
That's embarrassing.
It really is. But it's so impossible to draw football talent up there. But they're able to get a few studs on the basketball squad. So yeah, UConn, Purdue, that's who we're predicting for the Natty, and I would take then UConn to beat Purdue.
I can agree with that.
But I think that would be a pretty good game.
Yeah, I feel like that's almost like a similar kind of score as the Alabama-Clemson game, almost like an 85-83 kind of final.
In the National?
Yeah, in the National. Yeah, if it's UConn and Purdue. How do you feel about that?
I could see that. Maybe a little less scoring.
A little less?
Maybe a smidgen less.
Smidge?
Yeah, maybe 82-76.
That works too.
All right, moving on to our best bets recap. Not a good week.
No, unfortunately, I missed my very first blind spread pick, and I actually had some premonitions that this one was not going to go my way after I had already submitted it. I was just Golden State, they're actually they've been doing better lately. And I was basing my pick off of the way that they had performed for the most of the season rather than lately. And I should have been riding their momentum and picked them to cover. And they actually beat Orlando by a lot. I think they won by 13 or something like that.
Were they favored though as well?
Orlando was favored by
was favored.
Yeah, by 5.
I didn't know Orlando was that good. The Magic was pretty bad the last few years, haven't they?
Yeah, but they've been solid this year. They got
Voicevik.
Yeah, but they got Paolo Banchero now, and he's a solid little point guard. And
I'm kind of done with basketball, dude. My Splenetic Squirrels lost in the second round of the playoffs.
Dang, dude.
And, this is what happened, just real quick. On Saturday night, I could tell I was kind of screwed. So, in order to get more games in, so I could get more assists, rebounds, blah, blah, I dropped a pretty good player and then added another player who at least was playing that day. Right? So I got another game in. I think I did it with somebody else too. And as of 7 o'clock on Sunday night, I had a lead. It was 5-4. I was winning. I was so excited. But then the dude had some crazy guy go off in terms of blocks or something.
Jesus.
I ended up lost 5-4, and so I was eliminated. I am in the championship with my Zesty Zebras, but they are currently down pretty bad right now. They're already losing 1-8.
Yikes, bro. Yeah. It doesn't seem
it's early, though.
Yeah, you're not as zesty as you'd like to be this year.
I know. I'm upset. The Zebras have always been so dominant in their history. But we got to shift our attention to baseball. I also was eliminated from my hockey playoffs. The Ravishing Raccoons were eliminated, unfortunately, in the first round game against the 6 seed. I was 3 seed, 6 seed upset. And my Tasmanian Devils, my tempestuous Tasmanian Devils hockey team, there was a 3-way tie for the final spot in the playoffs.
No way.
I was on the losing end of that.
Did it go by whoever had the best record in the regular season? Or how did that go down?
Honestly, I do not understand the tiebreaker because we basically all have the same record. Well, we all have the same amount of points, 237 points. I guess it went to the guy who had more wins, but he had more losses, just less ties. It's weird to explain, like, because hockey, all it's categorical,
right? Yeah, same way basketball is. Yeah,
yeah, and so he was 107, 123. And then me and another guy were 105, 98, and 27. So we had 4 more ties, 2 less losses, and 2 less wins.
Mm-hmm.
He got it, I guess, because he had more wins. And so I was pretty upset about that. I got a freaking bye in the consolation semi. So now I'm playing for like 6th place or whatever.
Jeez,
7th place.
Yeah, but you're a little tempestuous, feeling a little stormy.
I am, dude. I'm upset. I really am upset about that because the next team is behind me by 33 points. The Nestbeck's record is 91, 117, and 22. So
That's
the gap
crazy.
in between 8th and 9th place is that big.
Yeah.
And yet everyone is so tightly compact from
man.
that 5 to 6 region.
Yeah.
Or 5 to 8. But
I'm sorry, brother. Well,
right.
At least you've got baseball to look forward to now. And
I know. 5 teams going this year.
So what are your team names in your baseball leagues?
The 3 core teams, well, I guess there's 4 technically now, but...
Didn't you say you got 5 leagues, though?
I do, but the Propitious Peacocks are a new team. You know what I mean?
So they're not a core team?
Not yet. Like the Jaunty Javelinas last year were a new team. I think they came in 3rd, so we're just going to put them on the bench for now. They're not returning this year. The Covetous Capybaras can come back. They won in their first season. They came in, I think, in 3rd or 2nd last year. The Heinous Hyenas have won 2 years in a row now. So they're, of course, back.
Of course.
The Merciless Mooses have won 2 years in a row, so they're obviously back.
Would that be Merciless Moose or Meese? Yeah.
It's Mooses, yeah.
Is that really the plural? That is an interesting little superlative there.
I know. Merciless Mooses. It doesn't really roll off the tongue as well, but I got a really cool logo for it at least. And then finally, the Harsh Hippos, who came in 1st 2 years ago, 2nd the past year, they're back, of course.
Interesting.
They're not hungry. They're harsh.
You should transition some of your team names into the groups of animal names. So you know how a group of fish is called a school?
Yeah.
So a group of cats is called a clouder. So you could get the
oh my God.
I don't know the capricious clouder.
That'd be wild.
Transition from a singular animal to what the collective group of them is called. So you don't have to worry about the plural of moose anymore, you know?
Like the gruesome gaggle of geese.
Yeah. Or just the gruesome gaggle.
The gruesome gaggle,
because otherwise it implies that all of the member of your team are geese. But if you just say the gruesome gaggle, it's just the collection of your team is so gruesome, you know?
I like that.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that and work it into next year.
Yeah.
But we just got to focus on this year right now. The Propitious Peacocks are off to the best start of the bunch. And coincidentally, they're in the Winners League. Actually, no, they're not. I think the Covetous Capybaras are in the Winners League. But
what about the Hyenas? They're the ones who have to be in the Winners League, right?
They should have. I mean, I guess I could have, but I just chose one of them randomly to be in a Winners League.
Makes sense.
So everyone in that league won a league last year.
Got it.
Yeah. So that was a big tangent.
It was, yeah.
We are going to start talking about more baseball on the show. There was a no-hitter last night.
Was there?
There was Ronel Blanco on the Astros.
No way.
I know. Dude has been pretty mid, barely has done nothing. Me, as a super fanatic of baseball, I'd never even heard of him, which is crazy. I mean, this was his real first start ever, and he goes out there and throws 9 innings, no hits, 10 strikeouts, a walk, 1 walker, or something like that. So that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Did you watch the Cubs opening day at all? I saw they won 5-0.
I did, yes, I did. A little bit. Shota Amanaga looks like he's going to be a fantastic pitcher, so I'm excited about that. I'm just hanging my hat on right now Brady Singer, who for the Royals pitched a great game the other day, 10 strikeouts over 6 innings, I believe it was, because no one believed in him. He was not rostered in any of my fantasy leagues, despite having a decent season last year. And also, his odds for strikeouts. I laddered it. I did like 4, 5, and 6 strikeouts.
No way. Did they all come through?
He got 10.
Wow,
yeah, so I could have
dude,
even laddered it more. But at 6, it was plus 220.
That's crazy.
I know. So he came through for me, and I'm really happy for him because I remember last year. I mean, he would have a bunch of strikeouts, but he would struggle sometimes with the ERA. So
yeah,
it's always good when you find a little gem like that.
Oh, dude,
hopefully,
for sure.
I add like a lot of pitchers onto my team and like kind of recycle them. I drop them. I get someone new, but I'm trying to have him be like a full year type of guy. I don't want to have to drop him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got to get more into it this year, man.
You got to.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be had. There's a lot to be loved with baseball. There's a lot of cool storylines.
I've been seeing, sorry, this is a little unrelated, not necessarily unrelated to baseball, but the Shohei Ohtani drama about like the gambling situation. Yeah.
God, I have no idea what's going on with all that. That's just crazy. But the MLB will do absolutely everything in their power to not suspend him because he's like the star.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, like one of the first games of baseball I watched when I was just getting into it a few years ago, like for real getting into it, was an Angels game.
Really?
And he came up to bat. Nobody knew who he was, though. He was a nobody at that point, literally. And I remember Googling him because I was surprised, like, oh, wow, this guy pitches and he bats. Like, that's pretty rare nowadays. I learned a lot about him before really anybody else got to know him because that was still like a good season before he really exploded. But, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I really hope that he's innocent, but
no, dude, I'm sure
sketchy.
He is. Yeah, I feel like it's probably just some other, I don't know, stupid stuff going on that I don't really think he actually did anything. But I do actually have another little funny story. Something I saw on Twitter the other day. It's related to basketball, though. So it was some guy who like pretended that he was signing up for a FanDuel account, okay?
Right, yeah.
And the email address that he like put to sign in was victor.wembanyama@spurs.com. And he's like acting like he's signing in with this email address.
Yeah.
And he's saying like, my team can't stop Wemby, so I'm going to. Like, he's going to pretend to create this fake account so that, like, Wemby gets, like, the email so that the NBA would launch an investigation into whether or not Wemby is trying to sign up for a FanDuel account.
Right.
I just thought it was a really funny tweet. And
that is funny.
Someone's getting really crafty out there trying to come up with ways to...
How would you even be able to get the Spurs domain? Like, you'd have to, like, verify your email, but, like, I wouldn't even
he wasn't actually, like, creating the account. He was just,
just being goofy?
Yeah, he just, like, typed in, like, victor.wembanyama into his like FanDuel account, took a screenshot of it to post on Twitter.
What a crafty little guy.
I know, but I wonder if that is like actually like Wemby's email address, like first name dot last name @spurs.com. Like,
why do I feel like Wemby doesn't even have an email?
Too new to the organization to have an email?
I just don't even think those guys need emails. Like,
I bet they still have them, though.
Do it all. I really feel like their agents just kind of handle all that stuff.
I bet you the agents do handle it. You're right, but I think they would still have an email address.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like, they probably don't ever check it, but I bet you they still have one.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess we won't see, but
it's still a funny little tweet to post.
Yeah.
I did like that.
Yeah, that is funny. I like that, too. Yeah. Some crazy shit going on with betting. There's always something new in the news about, like an LSU baseball player. I heard there was, some other crazy thing going on in Florida, but yeah. Your best bets of the week. Well, my best bets of last week were bad. They were all emotionally. Honestly, I can't believe I fell into that trap. You just think you got out of it. And you're like, okay, I'm betting clear-headed, no emotions. And then you end up with this shit because you did actually let the emotions creep in.
Yeah.
Arizona, no. Obviously, I took North Carolina over Alabama, no. San Diego State, UConn, I thought the revenge was going to be exciting. No.
Like, I liked those picks, though.
Looking back on it, though, the Arizona one was bad. The UConn one was egregious. The North Carolina one I could still kind of stand by, but the UConn one I should never have thought of.
UConn and SDSU were, like, going at it. Like, I think it was, like, tied at 33 at one point in that game. And then UConn went on a little run.
Smacked my mic. Holy shit.
I think that they, like, went into the half. It was maybe, like, 41-33 or something like that. But, like, it was close. Like... for a good chunk of the game.
What UConn does is they just maul you in the second half. I've seen some of their games. Like, they're tied with Xavier, right? Oh, let me check the live in-game betting spread. Why is UConn still 20-point favorites when it's a tie game at half?
Mm-hmm.
Let me take Xavier. Oh, look, final score 70-20. What happened here? They get after it in the second half.
Yeah, they do, man.
Hopefully this will be a better week. I only have one bet.
I also only have one bet. However, I also want to quickly say that the Magic Conch has reverted to the confusion zone.
Yeah.
After missing another one. It's just she's too flaccid. I don't even think she's usable anymore. I don't even want to put a bet on her this week. But if you want to put one on the Final Four with the Conch, we can.
She's going to take a break this week.
Yeah.
And then she'll come back for the national championship.
Yeah. Give her a week off.
She gets the national championship, right?
We'll use her.
We'll try and nurse her back up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we might have to put her down.
Fair enough. My best bet of the week this week is actually happening tomorrow. So we're recording this on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So this is a little Wednesday bet action. So when you see this, you're going to have to place the bet right away for all of our listeners because it's happening in the evening.
Yeah.
Raptors at Timberwolves. We're taking the Timberwolves on the spread, which still isn't posted yet, which is ridiculous. But the Raptors suck, and the Timberwolves are elite, and we're rolling with the Timberwolves.
Good stuff. I do like the Timberwolves. I'm just going to take UConn minus 12 over Alabama. Probably should not do that. I have evidently not learned from last week, but we're going to do it anyways.
I feel like you did learn. You learned that UConn blows out everything that they face.
I learned that, but I have not tried to shield my Alabama hate just yet.
Yeah. Oh, look, it appears that the line was posted since I wrote this in the doc. This is a little scary. No.
Scary?
Timberwolves minus 16, bro.
Oh, my God.
This could be a dangerous spread pick, but we're going to roll with it anyways. The Raptors are awful, and Timberwolves have Anthony Edwards, who just finds a way to get to the basket no matter what.
I do love him. I've had him on some of my fantasy teams.
He's so elite, bro.
It just feels good to have him.
Yeah.
So good stuff there. A little fan mail action here.
Papa Bear sent in some fan mail this week.
Love to see it.
He said, I guess this is from like a week ago.
6 days ago that he sent it. So
he was saying that who his Final Four picks are going to be. So he's like UConn, Arizona, Houston, and Gonzaga, I think, is who he's saying that would go to the Final Four.
He was very against Purdue.
Yeah, he did not like Purdue. So he got that one wrong, though, obviously. Houston out, Arizona out. So he's 1 for 4 here. He's just got his UConn pick, who have made it to the Final Four. And it says he also put UConn over Houston in the championship. So clearly he thinks that UConn's going to win it all. Obviously, Houston's out of it. Yeah. But we do agree. We like the UConn pick now.
Most definitely.
So, yeah, we will keep rolling with that.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Remember, guys, to write in anything you want. Doesn't even have to be sports related. Just make sure it's appropriate. And yeah, that is all we have for this installment in the Sideline Sorcerers saga.
Yeah, dude. I love a good saga.
Yeah, I'm excited for these next few games here. Gonna start covering some baseball and just whatever else is going on, draft related as well.
Yeah, looking forward to the draft. Very exciting stuff coming up in the end of the month, man.
Yeah,
Only a few
it's
more
coming
weeks.
up soon here. April 25th is the night. That is a Thursday night. Final day of caddy training.
Ooh.
Actually, no, it's not. Saturday. Final day of weekday caddy training.
We might have to do like another little mock draft that week right before the actual draft happens.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
We will. Yeah, that'll probably be our next mock draft. We probably won't do any other ones than that because we already did one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully there's some trades for us to gnaw and talk about as well.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Bye now.